Wait, remember Mighty Magiswords? Mighty Magiswords was Cartoon Network's whirlwind of fantasy-fueled and collectible-driven cartoon that told the adventures of sibling duo Vanber and Prohyas. Initially made specifically for Cartoon Network's online platform, Cartoon Network Anytime, the series started out as these incredibly small shorts that started to grow longer and longer, and eventually would transition into a full series from there. Chief Content Officer Rob Sorcher stated that taking the series in such small progression was something that the network had never done before, making Mighty Magiswords definitely one of a kind. The first short premiered online on May 5th, 2015, and the series grew, and over a year later, its first official air date was September 29th, 2016 on Cartoon Network. Mighty Magiswords centers around a brother-sister duo who run a Warriors for Hire business in which anyone can hire them to complete various tasks. Each task is unique and varies in degrees of difficulty, but both Vanber and Prohyas' main objectives is to find and grow their collection of Magiswords. But in reality, they're just trying to run away from the reality of their adulthood. And if you've ever seen my Pokemon collection, this is totally not something that I'd ever try to do. You better subscribe.
There's nothing you guys can do to stop me!
Go ahead, dude. We're on our break. Union rules.
Welcome back to the 25 Days of Fringe-Miss, where there's going to be brand new videos every single day from December 1st to December 25th. Hop aboard.
Vanber Warrior is voiced by Grey Delisle, and speaks with a loose and fake English accent. She is the oldest sibling and acts like it, or at least she tries to. She often prides herself on being very opinionated, preferring fancier food as opposed to her brother's favorite slug burger fast food restaurant. She does give in to childish behavior sometimes when she's around her brother, who is in reality extremely similar to her. She's actually the only one in her family that speaks with an English accent, which would prove why her accent drops at times or sounds off occasionally. Again, it's fake. Prohyas Warrior is voiced by creator of the series Kyle Carrozza. He is the more impulsive one of the two of them. He takes on a sort of himbo personality, preferring brawn over brains, but despite that, he could be pretty emotionally intelligent. His favorite Magisword is actually more like his pet, a dolphin sword that was actually his first. Their relationship is pretty solid and normal for a regular brother-sister duo. They are both incredibly competitive, and despite clashing occasionally with each other, they won't hesitate to jump to each other's defense should the circumstance call for it. Other recurring characters in the series include
Princess Sanji.
Yeah.
Also voiced by Grey Delisle, who is the ruler of the land with a stereotypical Valley Girl attitude, and Witchy Simone, friend of the siblings who manages Slugburger, who is voiced by Lindsay Smith Carrozza. Gatu and Morbidia are the rivaling Team Rocket-esque Jesse and James equivalent to the Warriors for Hire. They run a competing business called Wizards for Hire and often fail in trying to overshadow Vanber and Prohyas.
You look cute as kitten pie.
But I don't like eating kittens.
Coming up next, it's Mighty Magiswords. Coming up next, it's more Mighty Magiswords.
The series was created by Kyle Carrozza, who before getting his own series had worked on other shows in the past like Fanboy and Chum Chum and Fishhooks. Kyle had created a version of the characters of Vanber and Prohyas back in his high school days in 1996. His original idea was Legendary Warriors for Hire, and later another version titled Dungeons and Day Jobs, which is the best name yet. His idea kept growing and growing within the 10 years he was pitching his creative thoughts. His ideas were all initially without swords and centered around the two characters in a JRPG inspired fantasy world like Chrono Trigger and Final Fantasy VI. Inspired by these games, he came up with his own band of warriors. Originally pitching a different idea, Cartoon Network turned him down due to having another project in the works that was a little bit too similar. So instead, they landed on his older developed idea of the fantasy world focused on the sibling warriors for hire duo. But the series was still missing something. Both the network and Kyle acknowledged that they needed a hook, another element to draw the viewer in and make the world more interesting. This is where the Magisword idea comes into play. Kyle wanted something to pull the fans in and make the series more interactive outside of the screen. By incorporating the concept of these collectibles, the Magiswords, Kyle felt that the audience could relate to the characters more by also collecting them themselves. And in a way, it is genius due to how many shows relying on the success of their toy market. Although these swords didn't take the market by storm, the effect was still there, and the fandom culture between the characters in the series and the viewers was a great place to connect. It also offers a whole world of possibilities of absurd weapons that kids' cartoons are always trying to be creative with. Regular, simple weapons like swords and guns aren't exactly welcome in kids' media unless they are given a lighthearted and interesting twist. These unique and mainly harmless weapons are a great way to go about that. There are over 200 swords that we get to experience in the run of the show. Some major players include
the Dolphin Sword, the Tomato Magisword, the Excalibur Magisword, the Zombie Pumpkin Magisword, the Oinkus Oinkus Magisword, and the Accordion Magisword.
And yeah, they say it just like that every time there's a new Magisword that gets brought out. And fun fact, Kyle, who voices Prohyas, is actually a musician who plays the accordion, and is heavily inspired in his music by Weird Al Yankovic. It's also a clever little opportunity to incorporate other popular Cartoon Network shows into the Magiswords for a fun little crossover event, like the Teen Titans Go Robin-themed Magisword called Annoying Detective Magisword. Other shows that are featured in the swords include We Bare Bears, Ben 10's Villainous, Steven Universe, The Amazing World of Gumball, Adventure Time, and OKKO. Once the full concept of the series was developed, Cartoon Network first had Kyle develop the series in the form of shorts for their CN Anything app. He saw this as an opportunity to show the idea for his series as an extended segmented pilot, instead of limiting himself to the time strain of the shorts every time. He was able to show a multitude of different stories, exhibiting the storytelling potential that Vamber and Prohyas and their Magiswords possessed. From there, the shorts would get longer until the show was eventually picked up and turned into an actual series. In creating his smaller and runtime shorts, he found himself voicing many of the male characters, and the network liked it that way, bringing him on for the voice of Prohyas for the official series. Mighty Magiswords has some pretty mixed reviews. A lot of the negative sentiments can be attributed to the extremely fast pacing, which often allows a lot of the jokes to fly over the viewers' heads, specifically for a younger audience, and on the other hand of that, go by too fast for older audiences to even enjoy. The voice acting is actually incredibly strong with the main characters, but can feel a bit too much of the same when voice actors are recycled for other side characters, but don't end up changing their voices all that much or even at all. The overall look of the series is probably one of its strongest, if not the strongest attribute that it has. The backgrounds are different and unique, making the world building of this fantasy land incredibly fun for the audience. The animation medium is definitely taken advantage of in the characters' expressions and over-exaggerated movements. It's just downright fun to watch. While some of the jokes and pacing of the series leaves a lot of blank space, the visuals make up for it quite a bit. It all feels free-flowing and not constricted to a singular shape structure. From the way that the hair flicks around when characters are speaking or moving, to the way the action is portrayed, the show used every bit of its unique art style to its advantage. Now, there are a lot of side characters in the show that are pretty cool and unique all around. Again, maybe minus the voice acting aspect, but when you have a character like Grupp, who is around quite a bit and has a less than pleasant voice, it for sure can take away from the enjoyment of the show, especially since all I seem to see and hear while I look at this character is Fredburger, which is a character I do like, but in the Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy, he is used very sparingly to a point that it works more for the comedy aspect of it and doesn't become a detractor. I do, however, really like the whole sword collecting aspect. I think that for the most part, a lot of them felt very inventive and wholly unique. I looked forward to the weirdest ideas they had for these swords and how they would or wouldn't be used in an episode. I think where the show starts to fall apart is that it feels like it focuses more on the jokes per minute versus what actual substance comes from the episode. It's too fast for its own good, trying to speedrun the episode's story, but rather than trying to give you something tangible to take away from it, you get 100 jokes flying at you from the comments made or slapstick comedy, but maybe a few of them ever truly do hit. The pacing is truly what led to the show's eventual downfall, only lasting for 2 seasons, ending back right where it started.
Good job, Vanderito, is to flippity flip the slug patties with this here spatula.
Coming up next, it's Mighty Magiswords. Coming up next, it's a new Mighty Magiswords.
So while a lot of people attribute the series not continuing past its 2nd season to its poor pacing, animator David Barron voiced a few other reasons which had a bigger effect on the series not being renewed. He states that poor scheduling, such as dropping a massive amount of episodes only to go radio silent for a month, really hurt their viewership. It also didn't help that the lack of merchandising and marketing was also a major hit to its success. I mentioned earlier that the collectibles market for the series is practically screaming goldmine with the amount of fun and easy producible swords that could have been made. made, but the second half of the second season was dropped all at once online instead of being aired on TV, really just showed the team that the network wasn't really interested in the series anymore. Barron also mentioned that because of how fast-paced production was moving, by the time audience criticism of poor pacing reached their ears, there wasn't a ton of content left to create that would accurately address the pacing issues. So the lack of marketing, merchandising, and proper airing just speaks to how it wasn't being prioritized by the network. But those are just his speculations as to why the series wasn't renewed for a season 3, or for that matter, continued to be shown on the air. Early on in the development of the series, Alex explained that a potential season 3 would likely have been the Warriors exploring other lands of their world. This was originally a concept that he wanted to explore in season 2, but was unable to due to lack of time. If he had more time, his vision would have been complete in expanding past the television screen and in more ways for the audience to participate, contribute, play, watch, and collect. However, interactive games were made. Smartphone games like Surely You Quest and Magi Mobile were created, as well as a few Cartoon Network online games like Deadly Darling, The Quest of Towers, Dimensional Domination, and many more. It sadly was too little too late in trying to turn the show into something great and evolve the show itself. Becoming this cartoon that premiered with a lot of potential, it was visually different from everything else on the network at the time. It had some really cool ideas, but couldn't carry on from there into the rest of the series, which would turn out to be more of the same episode to episode. Fast-paced story, rapid joke slinging, and random swords seem to be the formula. While we have a bunch of side characters and an interesting world to explore, why didn't we do that to begin with? It could be a mix of not knowing what to do, sitting on this idea for so long and finally fine-tuning it from the web shorts to a full show just led to not being able to find a direction to take the series in, which is sad because the potential is all right there in front of us. It could have been a big hit for the network, but now it's looked back upon as mostly a forgotten show, and not in the fact that you can't remember it in general, but in the ways of what the show was about. What are the characters we meet in the show's names? What's the world we're in called? Exactly. The title, when thinking back on this, really only brings up memories of different cool and weird swords, and the memory of what this show could have been. But let me know your thoughts on Mighty Magiswords. How do you feel about the show's pacing? Which Magisword was your favorite if you did watch the series and had a favorite Magisword? Let me know in the comments. Thanks so much for watching. Like and subscribe. Later.